Hi folks, I'm Tim from Hilltop Packs. I've been an avid backpacker for almost 5 years now and a nature lover my entire life. And there was a magical point in time when this question was answered to me. So the goal of today's video is for those of you out there that have never heard of backpacking to kind of get a basic understanding of what it is and why it's such an awesome hobby. So you're going to hike a lot of miles, you're going to be cold, you're going to be hot, you're going to be wet, you're going to be sweaty, you're going to have to poop in the woods, and you're going to spend a heck of a lot of money on gear. So why would you do this? There are limitless answers to that question. And for me, one of the biggest benefits is mental health. You get deep out into nature and experience some seclusion and peace. Sometimes it's when I'm by myself, but other times it's when I'm with my closest friends that I really enjoy being around. You feel like you're the only people that are out there enjoying those beautiful views or that wildlife. It's just a spectacular mental health benefit for me. But some other benefits are definitely there as well. So when you have a lot of weight on your back and you're hiking anywhere from 1 to 40 miles per day, I got news for you. That's exercise, and that's good for you. In addition, I find it to be a fun and interesting challenge, not only to just kind of conquer my fears of being alone out dark in the woods, but also to just kind of push myself to see how far I can go on a hike or how many days I can be out there. There are so many choose your own adventure options in backpacking, and there's a lot of different methods of doing it. Some people go for speed. Folks like me, I'm stopping to take pictures and soak it all in as often as I can. So backpacking has a lot of a la carte options that you can personalize to yourself. That includes gear. But one of my favorite hidden benefits to backpacking is what I call the summer camp syndrome goes away. When I was a kid and we'd go on vacation, about second to last day or third to last day, I'd start getting bummed that we had to leave. And although when I'm out backpacking and I'm having the most amazing time of my life, when I'm hiking back to the car, man, am I excited to be there. Like I said, you're going to get wet, you're going to get sweaty, you're going to get hot, you're going to get cold. There's a lot of discomforts that come along with it. But when you get back to your car and you get to drive yourself to a burger joint and stuff your face after eating ramen for 5 days and take a hot shower when you get home, sleep in a warm bed, it makes it a lot harder to take those little comforts for granted in life. And you can kind of connect the dots on how this may really reflect on an overall positive attitude. And that is what I really appreciate about backpacking. I don't start getting bummed out before I go home. Instead, I appreciate just how awesome it is to live in a modern world. Backpacking, included in the term, is the word backpack. So as opposed to traditional camping, you're going to be carrying everything you need deep into the woods and surviving for probably multiple days with everything you need right on your back. Now, some of the basic things that you're going to need to take along with you are shelter, which in a lot of cases is going to be either a small tent or a hammock. In addition to a shelter, you're also going to need something to sleep on and to stay warm underneath. So that would often be a sleeping pad and sleeping bag and or a quilt. And in a case of a hammock, there's an underquilt or a lot of different insulation options. We won't get deep into the weeds on what all of that means, but generally speaking, you're clearly going to need some sort of bed when you're out there backpacking as well. In addition to your shelter and everything that goes along with that, you're also going to need appropriate clothing. And there's a lot of different options out there. But to simplify things, you just want to stick away from things that absorb moisture, like cotton or denim. Rain gear. Weather can pop up unexpectedly at any moment, and staying dry is a really important part. So you got to bring some sort of rain gear, whether that be a rain suit, rain jacket, or an umbrella. What else might you need? You're also going to need some food, and you're going to want to plan accordingly, depending on how many nights you're out, how many calories a day your personal needs are, and most importantly, you have to pack as light as possible. In other words, the more bang for the buck. You want as many calories as you can get in the lightest weight dining option you can find. Now, there's a lot of different options out there. Popular ones are nor sides, noodles, rice, ramen, and a lot of dehydrated backpacking meals. But once you get down this rabbit hole, you'll see that it's not necessarily fine dining out in the backcountry, but there's a lot of fun options to try, and it's fun to explore what kind of crazy concoctions you can make to keep your belly full. Now, you're going to be going out in the woods, you're going to be secluded, and you may want to plan for extra food and water just in case you do have something go wrong while you're on your trip. That brings me to my next point, which is maybe the most essential survival piece that you need to bring, and that is water. Now, backpackers, we will bring some water with us, but we often use some filtering systems to filter our water from lakes and streams and other water sources to sustain us while we're out on trail. Otherwise, you'd be carrying about 4 gallons, and water weighs a lot. Now, as far as filtering your water goes, there's a lot of really cool options out there. I use one called the Sawyer Squeeze, but there's other companies like Platypus and Catadine and a few other options out there to check out. Shelter, warmth, food, and clothing. You shouldn't need anything else, right? Well, this is what's fun about backpacking. There's a lot of other things you might need. And sooner or later, you're going to have to poop out there. So this brings me to the next point. A poop kit, or personal hygiene items, and first aid. Many backpacking trails have what they call a privy. That's going to be some form of a primitive outhouse that will range from something with full-on enclosed walls, or literally maybe just a toilet-looking thing sitting there with a beautiful view. But oftentimes, you're going to be squatting in the woods, and that requires some ethical practices. In other words, burying your poop. So you're going to need a poop trowel and toilet paper, hand sanitizer, and anything that might go along with that process. Other things that I bring in my hygiene kit are toothbrush and toothpaste, and usually some sort of wet wipes to wipe down my face and things when I'm getting all scuzzy at night. And I'll tell you what, depending on your personal preferences, deodorant is always optional in the backpacking world. Plus, it's another scented item that if you're in bear country, you need to keep with your food. First aid. Now, first aid is a very personal subject. I won't dive deeply into what your needs are out in the backcountry. I personally usually carry some Band-Aids, some blister tape, some antacid, some ibuprofen, just some of the basics. A tick removal key. There's a lot of different things. So there's not a need necessarily to bring this massive first aid kit for every emergency possible, but I'm not going to recommend anything specific because you got to be well trained enough to use some of those more complex first aid items. Let's take a couple steps back to the food category. I forgot to mention, you're going to want to bring some sort of a stove and something to fuel that stove, whether that be isobutane or a twig stove or a alcohol stove. Again, a lot of options out there, and some sort of receptacle to either boil water in or cook your food on. As with anything else in life, you want to go in well prepared. So if you're hiking trails in the backcountry, and perhaps you've never been on them before, in any situation, you should always have some sort of a paper map. And if you know how to read a compass, use that as well. But it's also important to maybe have things like a Garmin GPS device with an SOS feature in case you get injured and you're alone. And I also recommend that since we all carry phones, you download a map ahead of time so that you can use that as an additional resource to navigate your way around the trail and find your way out should you happen to get lost. There's a lot of really cool trail apps out there for your phone. I'm not going to recommend one over the other. Do your research because a lot of times they work specifically well in specific areas of the country. To piggyback off of some of those electronic devices we may rely on in the backcountry, it's always good to bring some form of electronics bag, including what's probably the most important part in that, and that's a headlamp of some sort. A flashlight will do too, but headlamps are created these days to be very ultralight, and they work great for night hiking. That's not to say that you will choose to night hike, but you always need to be prepared. And I have never spent a night backpacking without having my headlamp on around camp. Other things in an electronic bag may be a small battery bank to charge your devices. I bring some headphones in case I'd like to listen to a podcast when all of my buddies are snoring right next to me. And unlimited other types of electronics that we probably all know about that may work for you in the backcountry as well. Just remember, keep it as light as possible. So hopefully I've accomplished my mission today, and that is to get some of you folks out on trail, to experience for yourself the benefits of nature and the beauty and the challenge and the pain and the bug bites that come along with backpacking. And if you want to check out some really cool ultralight USA-made gear, check out hilltoppacks.com and apexgiant.com. I hope to see y'all on trail. Peace.